received his gift. And we're all of the bad things of this world are over. And we're going to talk about that in our lesson and look up some scriptures that tell us about that. But that's a fitting way to conclude the subject of unity, right? Because that's the ultimate unity, isn't it? So, our first verse or verses that I would like us to turn to this morning are in John 14, verses 1 to 3. And I bet a number of you could recite it. Now, if you don't know it by memory, feel free to look it up and read along. But those of you that know it by memory, let's try saying it together, all of us. Let not your heart be troubled. If you believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. It's a promise that I've grown up with, that many of us, because I saw some of you reciting it as well, have grown up with, and it's an amazing promise, right? Huh? Pathfinders, yeah, is one of the texts that you had to memorize for Pathfinders. So I like it that it says, let not your heart be troubled. It starts off with, relax, don't worry, be at peace, don't stress about this. I've got it covered. I'm taking care of you. You know, if you believe in God, believe in me, I have a place for you. That's so much better than what you see on this earth, right? So our first text that we're going to look up are giving us certainty and that Jesus is coming back, where the Bible is just very clear, it makes no vagueness about it. We know without a doubt that okay, yeah, go ahead and get it started around, Billy. We know without a doubt that that Jesus is coming back based on these verses that we're going to read. Just a reminder, as the little clipboard for the offering is going around, this is the last Sabbath of the quarter, so if you had wanted to contribute to those mission projects that are on the back there, this is your opportunity to help those projects in Southeast Asia. So let's look at Matthew 24. It's a familiar chapter about the end of time and second coming. If I could get somebody to read verses 27 and verses 30 and 31. Matthew 24. I don't think I have. 30 and 31.
At that time, the sign of the loud trumpet call, they will gather.
Okay, so it pretty much spells it out, doesn't it? Every eye is going to see him. Lightning is going to flash from one end of the sky to the other. He's going to come in the clouds of heaven. All the tribes of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming. And great sound of a trumpet. So it's audible, it's visible, it's everybody's seeing it, right? But the Bible's pretty clear. He's coming, right? Was there going to be a comment? It looked like somebody was getting ready. Bob, were you getting ready to speak? Let's turn to Acts. Yes.
I think in addition to this is also those of us as Bible students know for sure that when people come out from maybe 30s sayings about Jesus being in Australia, some other place, as Bible students we know that is not true.
Right. So I don't know if you heard what Floyd was saying. If you're a student of the Bible and you read these texts, you know very clearly that Jesus' coming is going to be seen by everybody at the same time. There's no like, oh, he's out in the desert, he's in Australia, he's, somewhere else. The Bible, in fact, there's verses that warn us against that, right? If they say he's in the desert, don't go there because those are going to be false Christs. So yeah, very visible, very audible, very tangible. It's going to be a real event that everybody sees. Let's turn to Acts chapter 1, verse 11. Acts 1:11. Go ahead.
Men of Galilee say, why do you stand here looking into the sky? The same Jesus who has been taken from you into heaven, back in the same way.
Okay, so once again, they physically saw him rise up in the sky, right? And they're saying it's going to come back the same way. You're going to see him come down. It's like looking down the road and saying, well, he went that way, and I know he's going to come back the same road. He's coming back in the same manner, meaning in a physical sense, and he's going to come back from the same source. Crystal? No, but this verse is really, I think, focusing on just the manner of how he's going to, you saw him physically leave, you're going to see him physically come, but yeah, you're right. His departure into heaven was not universal, globally seen.
Kind of an answer to that, that these people who saw him would later, some of them, write down those words so that they were witnesses. They saw it and they said, we saw it and we know what he said and this is what he said, and if we saw it, said it, it's going to happen.
Love it when it makes it this thing.
Right.
Yes.
Not a different version of him, not a different form. In other words, I think he's still in his human form, right? When he's permanently, eternally took on our flesh, and he's coming back in that same form. So he'll be recognizable as. Isn't that amazing? That's. Thanks for pointing that out.
Know that we'll see his image.
Right. We're told that the scars will still be there, but we're also told that he'll be glorious and magnificent and all of that. So, yes.
That's going to think about he was beaten so bad.
Right.
And the crown of thorns was on his head.
Right. I think, I haven't done a study into this, but I think heaven wouldn't be as joyful if you're looking at a beaten, bruised, I don't think he's going to be. There's no tears in heaven. There's no, I think like Bob's saying, we'll see the scars. We'll always be reminded of the sacrifice, but I think he'll be glorious and magnificent as our King,
Jesus said, the Bible said that when we raise from our body will change.
Right. We're raised incorruptible.
So his body is full of glory.
Right. But I think I think he chose to come back showing the scars, whereas we are told that we will be given glorious new bodies, and I don't think our scars will be there anymore. But Jesus has retained those scars just for as a reminder for us. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Were you? Mm-hmm. But they will be wiped away. Right. Right. Crystal?
We have a son or daughter that's
Right. We'll have a time to understand why and to, right. Crystal? Yeah. Let's look up Jude, which is the last book right before Revelation. Jude 14, verse 14. There's only one chapter in that book.
Isn't there a
Yeah. Jude 14, if someone wants to read that out. Okay, so we're just continuing to read some more evidences in the Bible of various prophecies talking about that Jesus is coming, and he's coming with 10,000 of his saints. So that's, after the resurrection has happened, all the saints are gathered together. And then finally, let's look at Revelation 22, verse 20.
Testifies to these things, say, yes, I am coming soon.
Yes, I am coming
Amen.
soon.
Come, Lord Jesus.
So, it's from his words, it's in red print in my Bible, Jesus himself saying, I'm coming soon. So we have that assurance that it's a real thing. It's not just, as the lesson pointed out, there's people who want to spiritualize it away, just that he came, that's what they, back in Ellen White's time, they thought, well, he came in 1844, just in a spiritual sense, and he's there's all these different doctrines or beliefs held by different people that it was not a tangible return. Yes.
They believed that in 1844 Jesus came in their hearts, and therefore they were sanctified.
Right. Thank you. They believed that his coming was just in their hearts, and that therefore after that they could not sin. Everything they did was holy, and so there was all these different teachings that were going on. But the Bible, as we just read, is clear that he's coming in a physical, visible, audible, tangible sense, right?
When you look at these texts, God made, God in his foreknowledge that we would need of assurance.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of what it would be if we didn't have these assurances?
Oh, yeah. Wondering what's, yeah.
The world is in a mess,
Yes.
but despite all of this, we still have that blessed hope.
Yes, yes. At the bottom of Sunday's lesson, it says the second coming of Jesus is linked closely to his first advent. The prophecies that predicted his birth and ministry are the foundation for our hope and trust in the promises about his second coming. Christ has appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself, so Christ was offered once to bear the sins of many. To those who eagerly wait for him, he will appear a second time apart from sin for salvation. So it's true, without having his first coming and having it documented and knowing all the details about his life here on earth, it gives us confidence for the second coming, doesn't it? To say, okay, he came, those prophecies about his first coming came true, so therefore I can believe in the prophecies about his second coming. How often do you focus on the return of Jesus? Just in daily life as you go through the week. How often does that thought come to your mind? Yes.
Every day.
Specifically on that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Especially Sabbath. Thank you. Anybody else? Crystal? Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. And what are one of those ways that we can do that on a daily basis? And spending time in His Word. That part, when you're talking about putting your sandals on and being ready, I'm thinking that's reading my Bible, connecting my relationship with Jesus so that I'm ready, regardless of what that day holds for me. I've gotten prepared that morning, right? Yeah, it's good. Thank you. I think of it every time. I mean, multiple different things, like everybody has said, but also like if I read or hear something on the news of another tragedy, yet another atrocity that's happened, another crime that's happened, and I'm just like, oh Lord Jesus, come soon, please. I just crave that. I want that. I want this suffering to end. I want this evil to end. And so I think if we're believers in our very name, Seventh-day Adventist, what does it mean? The advent of Christ is coming. It's at the core of who we are. It should be, right? If we believe that, it should be woven into every minute of our lives, right? To just be, that's our purpose for living. That's our purpose for being, is to prepare ourselves to tell others about Jesus, right? You might be a first-day Adventist instead of a Seventh-day Adventist. Yeah, they don't think about what the meaning of the word exactly. All right, let's continue on to talk about restoration and restored relationships. 1 Thessalonians 4:13. First Thessalonians 4:13 to 17, if someone wants to read that.
I would not have.
Okay. I don't know if everybody was able to hear her, but I hope you read along. So it's a wonderful promise, right? That the Lord Himself will descend from heaven with a shout, and we which are alive and remain will be caught up together, and we will always be with the Lord.
Question is, how many of us?
Versus being resurrected, you mean? You want to live till the end? I know. I do, and I do for the most part, and then other times I think, oh no, man, the time of trouble is going to be terrible. Lord, just let me go to sleep and wake me up when it's done. that's bad, but I don't know if anybody else is going to be as honest as I was.
Elder Wentland,
Mm-hmm. Yes. Right. Well, and it could be for different reasons. It can be just physically. If you're in your elder years and the being thrown in prison or being tortured or something is just beyond what your physical body can handle at that time, or emotionally, whatever we can handle. The Lord, you're right. I mean that's, we have to just trust that God in His wisdom knows who is able to stand, and who is sincere but needs to be just rest until He comes. Right?
we think we know about God. We do not know about God.
Well, that's why Paul says, for now, is it Paul or Peter that says, for now we see through a glass darkly?
Yes.
You know, we just get a very, you know, you imagine like a window that's just like smeared and smudged up with, with mud, and you're like trying to see through it. And that little peak that we can see through it is all we really understand. I think God is so much bigger and so much better than we can even grasp. Yeah. Was there another hand? Mm-hmm. Yes,
You
Floyd?
know what I like about this here, you know, I think read it. Remember growing up as kids when we had a storybook? Writing, we start the first chapter and we just can't wait. So we ran to the
Oh,
last chapter,
yeah.
read the end of the story, and then we go back.
Uh-huh.
Right? Like, you know, we know the end of the story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God has made it clear and showed us in written words what will happen.
Right.
And so all we have to do is to surrender to Him and have that faith and trust in Him. So, the end of the story already.
Right. But, and I like that illustration, however, it's a book that we know the end of the story, but all the chapters in between haven't been written yet in our personal lives, and God hides that from us, because if we knew what was coming, it might be bigger than what we might feel overwhelmed, but He's going to take us each day, give us the strength for that day, right? So yeah, what Floyd was saying, you know, like a storybook, as a kid, you might skip to the end of the book to read how the story ends, you know, and God has given us that end of the story. He tells us how it's going to end. We know we've skipped ahead. We've read the end of the book. But what I was adding is that those chapters in between are our lives, and God doesn't show us those ahead of time, and He knows in His wisdom that we couldn't handle it if we knew what kind of tragedy might come around the corner. But He says, my grace is sufficient for you. I'm going to get you through each day. Just trust in me for today. I got it. I know how the story ends. Here's how, you know, so. Let's continue on. John chapter 5. Verses 28 and 29. John 5, 28 and 29. Somebody has that? Okay, so you read 29, but not 28, 28 and 29. So,
Not marvel at this time.
okay, so all who are in the graves will hear His voice. Is that good news for any of us who have lost loved ones? I know I'm really looking forward to seeing my mom again, and I know there's others here who have lost loved ones and are looking forward to that day. That's a very comforting, reassuring passage, isn't it? And you know, this is all talking about restoration, you know, raising up the dead, restoring people to wholeness and life again. Revelation 20.
The key thing on this text is also bringing out truth. That's all we hear His voice. All be risen from the grave, some to eternal life.
Mm-hmm.
Others,
Right.
eternal destruction.
Right. So all hear His voice, but not all are going to receive eternal life. Exactly. This morning was reading or dialoguing with a friend on the other side of the world who is blaming God for a lot right now and going through a dark time in her life, and talking about getting revenge on those who have hurt her. And I thought, you know, this is what you need to wait for, because God's going to take care of justice in his timing and his way, which will be better than anything that we could do. And that's at that final time, in that resurrection, when everybody is called forth, and those who rejected God, those who sinned against him will receive their punishment, and it's not ours. Jesus says, God says, vengeance is mine. I'll take care of it. You don't have to. So I'm praying for my friend that she will understand that. Revelation 24-6. Mm-hmm. That's a good one. I have heard that before too. Yeah, resentment or holding grudges or what? Yeah, that same kind of concept. Yeah, just it's like a poison. It's like a poison that we take and expect somebody else to die. We're the ones that get hurt by it, right? We're the ones that are destroyed by that anger, that hatred, that resentment, that desire for revenge, whatever it might be. It poisons us. And
people say, I'll forgive you, but I'll
mm-hmm. But you're poisoning yourself when you're doing that, right? Because you're not letting go, not letting God give you that gift of forgiveness. It's not something we can come up with on our own. But that's another whole subject. So Revelation 24-6, does somebody have that?
This is it's holy.
Okay. When I was reading that earlier, talking about the souls of those who had been beheaded for their witness, that seems to be the preferred method of execution of groups like ISIS and stuff now, isn't it? You're a Christian, I'm going to behead you. And they make public beheadings and videos that they show and all that. And God knew that was going to happen. God knew, he's got it right here. He's like, those who have been beheaded for their witness for Jesus and for the Word of God, didn't worship the beast or his image. Yep. But, yeah, Paul.
It talks about the first death,
Except for Christ. Yes.
Christ took our place.
Mm-hmm.
Except faith in his Father.
It felt permanent and eternal. Mm-hmm.
For you and I.
Yeah. So that we don't have to.
Well, except him, we do not have.
Yeah. And I like the wording there in verse 6. It says, blessed and holy is he who has part in the first resurrection. So if we're part of that first resurrection, it means we've accepted Christ. We're part of the redeemed.
His death for ours.
His death for ours, like Bob was just saying. So we definitely want to be part of that first resurrection, right? And it's, once again, nothing that we can do. It's accepting his sacrifice for us, accepting that gift, and surrendering to him. One more, 1 Corinthians 15, verses 52 and 53.
Josh, twinkling of an eye for the last
50, well, oh, I'm sorry. Did I say 52 and 50? Yeah, it should be. Yeah, go ahead, 52, 53.
for the trump will sound. Dead will be raised imperishable. Perishable must clothe itself.
Okay. So, I'm sure nobody out here has any aches or pains or any health problems at all, right? You're all in the picture of perfect health. But I know, I'm sure there's others that are suffering much more than I am, but I am reminded every day of my aging body, and I really look forward to that, that we will all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, and we will be our corruptible bodies, which is a mortal body, right, that is deteriorating. Our daughter just celebrated her 25th birthday this last Sunday, and she was just like, just before they left to go overseas, she was talking about, like, it was this dreaded thing, you know, and like, oh no, I'm going to be this old lady now, 25. But really, I mean, we study about it in textbooks. You're pretty much growing and improving until around that age. And after that age is when the body starts to age, doesn't it? And it's like that corruptible body is, what do you have to look forward to? Getting older, getting more aches and pains, getting diseases, getting whatever. And I love this promise that the corruptible will put on incorruption, and the mortal put on immortality, and there'll be no more suffering and deterioration and counting of the gray hairs or anything like that, right? It's just going to be perfect health as God intended us at creation. So that's a beautiful promise in my estimation.
I know verse 55 is not in the thing there, but I love that one where we can say, where, oh, death is your victory.
Yes.
Where, oh, death is your sting.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. It's kind of like God saying, no. Like, you're done. You're over with. No more death. Not going to see you again. It's you're gone. Lost.
Before sin, death was,
Yes.
death was not a thing.
Nope.
Part of the plan at
No.
all. And when we start
Mhm. Yes.
and God, and that's why we're going to be looked at
All the world's. Mhm.
tonight. You know, I was talking.
They want to hear the story,
Tell us again about the plan of salvation.
what it was like to be redeemed.
Right.
Mhm.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
Nobody will be able to sing that song
Yeah.
except us.
Yeah. I think of that song. No. How's it?
The story.
No, but the one that the angels cannot
Oh, yes.
tell this or sing this song or whatever, what our salvation brings or something. I forget the wording of that. Yeah, even angels can't understand.
That our salvation.
Right, the joy and what it means to. If you remember the words, I'll let you lead it, but I know I won't remember all the words. Yeah, but it's a beautiful song.
The angels saw a new side of God when Christ himself came down and God himself came and body so he could die, take our death, like God said. They saw a side of God they had never seen before.
Mhm.
And it just makes them want to hear what's
Yeah.
behind that.
And imagine how it must have hurt them to watch the way Jesus was treated on this earth. That their loving, commander in chief that they worshipped and adored, all those angels, to have to watch the evil that this earth hurled at him, you know.
We got to remember how subtle Satan is.
Mm-hmm.
We got to. That's why we have to.
Yeah, so we better not be too confident and cocky that we've got to feed on this constantly so that we're ready to discern the counterfeit and the false teachings, right? So let's talk a little bit more. We'll read a few more verses about new heavens and new earth. 2 Peter 3:11-13. Second Peter 3:11-13. Does anybody have that?
Looking forward to a new heaven.
So, all of the wickedness of this earth, all man-made things that man tries to take glory in, buildings and this and that, is just going to melt up, burn up completely, right? Melt in fervent heat. You get things hot enough that even rock oftentimes melts, doesn't it? Depending on what's in the rock and stuff. Yeah, lava is molten rock. You're right. And so there's everything is just going to be dissolved, it says, and the elements melt with fervent heat. And then there's a new heaven and a new earth where righteousness dwells. Beautiful, beautiful. Yes.
Yes, I like the point you made there, but you know something. What kind of people ought to live holy and godly lives.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these things is going to be happening.
Right.
But in order to us to be part of that,
We need to be living holy and godly lives. Mm-hmm.
Holy and godly lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
But that effort that we give is not.
no, but it
We grow in His grace.
right. But if we're in that relationship with Him, then we're going to naturally, as a byproduct of that, be living holy and godly lives, right? It's a outgrowth of that relationship. It's
That's
not.
why we will be safe to save, because
Mm-hmm.
daily, moment by moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you fall, you know what Satan wants you to do. You fell, and so you have no chance.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah.
But we know Satan's alive. You said something bad about your mother-in-law, and it's over with.
Okay. Let's look at Isaiah 35, 4-10. I'm going to read quickly here. Say to those who are fearful-hearted, be strong, do not fear. Behold, your God will come with a vengeance. With the recompense of God, He will come and save you. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. Then the lame shall leap like a deer, and the tongue of the dumb sing. For waters shall burst forth in the wilderness, and streams in the desert. The parched ground shall become a pool, and the thirsty land springs of water. In the habitation of jackals where each lay, there shall be grass with reeds and rushes. A highway shall be there, and a road, and it shall be called the highway of holiness. The unclean shall not pass over it, but it shall be for others. Whoever walks the road, although a fool, shall not go astray. No lion shall be there, nor any ravenous beast go up on it. It shall not be found there, but the redeemed shall walk there, and the ransomed of the Lord shall return, and come to Zion with singing, with everlasting joy on their heads. They shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. But isn't it beautiful? There's no more blindness. There's no more deafness. There's no more crippled wheelchairs. I think of Lisa, who just lost her battle with life and in illness and whatnot this week. Spent most of her life, in a wheelchair. And none of that will be there. You know, resurrection day, she'll have a brand new body. And I just, those kind of promises are just beautiful. I mean, every day, and I know several of you here are also in the medical profession, but every day I get to see people who are physically broken in one way or another. You know, sometimes it's mentally broken, but, and that's all going to be gone. And we'll just, all that suffering and those handicaps and whatnot will be erased. Isn't that beautiful?
I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to get to that in a minute, but
sorry, I thought you were on that.
no, I mean, it was,
I don't know where you
I'm trying to remember which verse that is. It's in my list of verses.
Revelation 22.
Revelation 22. Okay, yeah, that was one of my verses I was coming to. But yeah,
well, they separated the nations of the power,
mhm.
and they changed the language. I think it's talking about something like
Okay. Maybe we'll skip over to that. Let's read that 22 verses 1 to 5 because I'm looking at the time and I probably don't have time for all these verses. Revelation. Do you want to read that, Bob? 22, 1 to 5?
Look it up, 1 to 5.
22, verse 1 to 5.
I got it here in a minute.
1 to 5.
And the angel showed
Mm.
healing its fruit every month.
Yeah, all the way to 5.
No longer will there be any.
Okay. I know. But getting to that phrase about the healing of the nations, yeah, I have never done a study into that, and I can't say that I know more than what the lesson has shared here, but I think it is plausible. I think it's a plausible explanation that the healing of the nations refers figuratively to the removal of all national and linguistic barriers and separation. The leaves of the tree of life heal the breaches between nations. The nations are no longer Gentiles, but are united into one family as the true people of God. And it makes sense. We've all just been resurrected or brought to the New Jerusalem, right? And we're all there around the tree of life. And the tree of life is the healing that you know God is offering, that we eat of that and we never die and whatnot. And you're going to have people from nations that were previously at war with each other coming up there. You're going to have people of all different languages, you know, coming there, and different prejudices and ethnic whatever, you know, discriminations and whatnot. And it could be. I mean, this sounds reasonable, doesn't it?
Everywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they've all been.
Mm-hmm.
It was all
Do we have quote tribal issues within our church? I don't want to open a can of worms here, but just to touch it on a very superficial level, I don't want to dig open anything. But yes, we have ethnic tribes right within North America. We have regional conferences, and we have other conferences. Yes, yes. But maybe this is what it is all about. We're all children of God. We're all brought there, and as we partake of that tree of life, we are the colorblind scales fall from our eyes. We're no longer prejudiced. We're no longer caring about somebody else's ethnicity or their background because we're all one family, right?
Am I wrong or right in a lot of that started?
Probably.
By understanding each other completely,
Right. No.
And I think that is kind of like a bookend, Bob, because God had to separate all of those people in order to keep evil from prevailing. But now, back together.
Okay, couple. Quickly in the last couple minutes, I want us to look at a couple of things of how are we going to be able to recognize each other. What does the Bible talk about how we can recognize each other, or how we can know who our grandmother or who somebody else was, and let's look at John 20. Where is it? Verses.
27 and 28.
No, that was. But I'm looking at John 20 verses 11 to 16. It's the story of Mary weeping at Jesus' tomb, and then Jesus himself speaks to her, right? And she thinks he's the gardener, and he says, "Well, woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?" She supposed him to be the gardener. She said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned and said to him, "Rabboni," which is to say teacher. So at that moment when he called her name, she recognized him, right? She recognized his voice. I think there's an answer to that question about whether he's going to be bruised and bleeded and stuff. Obviously he wasn't. She had last seen him as a bruised man hanging on a tree, right? And here he is standing in the garden, clothed, and she's presuming him to be the gardener. So, she recognized his voice. So, and then let's look at another one, Luke 24. So flip to the previous book. And this is verses 30 to 31 and 35.
Bless the food and they
Right. So he's with those two disciples from Emmaus, right? And he talked to them all the way, and they're so grief-stricken that they're not even looking at his face, not even paying attention really to who he was. So they didn't pick up on that right away. But then, as he broke the bread, their eyes were opened. They realized who it was, right? So I took that as being like mannerisms.
Yeah.
Just, how certain people just have certain mannerisms. They wave toss their head a certain way, or they wave their hand a certain way, or they do something that's just very uniquely that person. You can see them at a distance and recognize, oh, that's got to be so-and-so because of certain mannerisms or the way they walk or something about it. Right, but at that time he might have been veiling himself so that they would just listen to, the actual teaching. Because if he had revealed to them immediately who he was, they would have just been thrilled that Jesus was there, and they wouldn't have listened. He knew they needed to hear from the prophecies again, because he was going to be gone again, and they needed to have it fixed in their mind. So he kind of withheld that recognition, I think, until he was ready for them to see it. But mannerisms and voice and...
in the Bible, there was a story, watchman was looking for a tower.
Yes. So Jehu was recognized by the way he drove. There's probably some people here that could be recognized by the way they drive. Who knows? I don't know. But anyway, so yes, there are ways that we will be able to... All right, we are out of time. I wanted to finish with a couple of quotes. At the bottom of Thursday's lesson, it says, "There the redeemed shall know, even as also they are known. The loves and sympathies which God himself has planted in the soul shall there find truest and sweetest exercise. The pure communion with holy beings, the harmonious social life with the blessed angels and with the faithful ones of all ages who have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb, the sacred ties that bind together the whole family in heaven and earth, these help to constitute the happiness of the redeemed." And then on Friday's lesson from Counsels for the Church, it says, "The resurrection and ascension of our Lord is a sure evidence of the triumph of the saints of God over death and the grave, and a pledge that heaven is open to those who wash their robes of character and make them white in the blood of the Lamb. Jesus ascended to the Father as a representative of the human race, and God will bring those who reflect his image to behold and share with him his glory. There are homes for the pilgrims of earth. There are robes for the righteous, with crowns of glory and palms of victory. All that has perplexed us in the providences of God will in the world to come be made plain." That's that 1,000 years, like Bob was saying, of being anything that troubled us and confused us and perplexed us, it'll be explained. It'll be made plain. We'll understand. The things hard to be understood will then find explanation. The mysteries of grace will unfold before us. Where our finite minds discovered only confusion and broken promises, we shall see the most perfect and beautiful harmony. We shall know that infinite love ordered the experiences that seemed most trying. As we realize the tender care of him who makes all things work together for our good, we shall rejoice with joy unspeakable and full of glory. So we don't always know what's going on, but we know God has a plan. He has everything in control, and we just trust him, and heaven is going to be a wonderful place, isn't it? Thank you for your participation. Let's bow our heads for prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for these verses, these promises in the Bible that give us confidence that you will come again as you've promised, that we have a wonderful future to look forward to if we just accept your gift of salvation and remain faithful to you. Lord, please come soon. Please prepare our hearts and keep us all faithful to you, and help us to have a burning desire to tell others so that we can grow your family and be ready for your soon coming. And we ask all this in your name. Amen.